There's an old saying, it's an African proverb. Speak little, carry a big stick, and you'll go far. I'm going to say that again. Speak little, and carry a big stick, and you'll go far. What that means is you should back up what you say, and you will get ahead in life. Now, in my last video called the Coon Factor, Put to the Sword, Coon Factor 1 of 3, I talked about these Hotep Negroes, the so-quote-unquote pro-blacks who care so much, but are just like these Protestant preachers on the corner churches, pimping and using the black populace for their own ends and gains, publicity, fame, fortune. In this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to review two major incidents that are about 30 days apart. I'm not going to get into specifics about the event, but I am going to talk about the reaction of the Negro. And what I hope to accomplish in this video is to expose for you these so-called pro-blacks and their bullshit ideology, and show you that not only do they not believe what they're talking about, but that they refuse to put it into practice. Now, many people are aware of two very polarizing issues regarding the police and the community. Number one was Eric Gardner. Number two is Mike Brown. Now, what I want to point out was that in another video that I did, I told y'all that what was going to happen was martial law was going to be in effect, or was going to well on its way be into effect. Now, I kind of foresaw it happening in New York, and I was a bit off the mark. But when we turned our attention to Florida, our attention to Ferguson, Missouri, what we find is that there are armored carrier vehicles, the police carrying military-style weaponry, and in full-out tactical gear, as if war was being waged on U.S. soil. Now, what does this have to do with these Hotep Negroes? Well, let me explain. These Hotep Negroes are the ones crying out for people to loot, to riot, to act a goddamn fool. Now, although I initially made the video but never released it, and other players on this channel on YouTube have put their ideas out, I'm just going to come out and state for the record that I am totally in agreement that the behavior of the people in Ferguson, the looting and the rioting, only solidifies what the so-called white supremacists, the racist faction, thinks about you. And what I notice is that these so quote-unquote pro-black Negroes who are telling you to go out there and do this shit ain't out there them damn selves, which doesn't make any fucking sense to me what's so goddamn ever. Here it is, you can advise people to do things that will, at the very least, cost them their freedom and ultimately can cost them their life. And you're nowhere to be found. Now, these Negroes know who the fuck they are. I'm not going to name you. But if you feel offended, then chances are I'm probably talking about your black ass. I just want to put that out there. Now, these so-called unquote Negroes can stand out in march and say, justice for Eric Gardner. Justice for Mike Brown. But notice that these so-called Negroes do not, under any circumstance, make any sort of movement towards actualizing that. In other words, in the case of Eric Gardner, it has been just about 30 days. And we don't have an officer arrested. We don't have the DA moving to do anything significant. Hell, all we have is let's wait and see. Now, I don't have a problem with let's wait till all the facts come in before we make a movement. But you hear this rallying cry from these so pro-black Negroes out here saying justice needs to happen and we need to do this. And this needs to happen and we need to do this if we don't get this. See, what these Negroes are really telling you to do is hold the city hostage. And the problem is, with that logic, you are significantly less armed than the police that is supposed to protect the people. And so what these so-called Negroes will do is turn you into a terrorist. And what happens to terrorists in America? They get shot down like fucking dogs in the street. Speak little, carry a big stick, and you'll go far. Seems like it's very simple to follow. So fucking easy, in fact, to put that into practice. But see, these Negroes sit behind the camera. They get on Blog Talk Radio, and they make all these wild, crazy ideas and solutions. But these Negroes simply refuse to take what is put in front of them. They refuse to see the fucking forest for the goddamn trees. In other words, the simplest solution to bring peace back to the streets of Ferguson would be take your punk ass home. Stop looting, stop rioting. You want to help? Start a Kickstarter. Start making that happen. See, I want to point something out. When people thought George Zimmerman was innocent, do you know what the white community did? And not just the whites, because there were some Negroes and Hispanics and everybody else in between. But you know what they all did? They pulled their money and donated. Here it is. Eric Gardner has been dead for 30 days. And nobody knows that the family has hired an attorney, at least to my knowledge. Nobody knows when the DA is going to get all the documents in and is going to make a determination whether he's going to attempt to indict. And conversely, in Ferguson, where you have inflammatory material released to the public trying to character assassinate the young man, even though I'm pretty sure the man was no saint. You have a police chief who failed to calm the crowds, the way that John Othello and the British film Othello actually did. What's going on, basically, at a short, well, I won't say at a short glance. Up front, bottom line up front, what you have is just total fucking chaos. And these Negroes stand around circle jerking and can tell your black ass, well, we need to go out and do this, and how it's so much this, and black man can't get shit in this country. See, what these Negroes don't realize, or rather they realize it, but they don't want to accept it, and they want you to fall into their utter buffoonery, is that the simplest way is just to be very logical about the issue, to take accountability for what is wrong, own it, and drive the fuck on. And that's what these Negroes can't do. Now, I'm not going to say anything about Eric Gardner or Mike Brown because, number one, I don't know these men. And once again, I must express, if I haven't expressed it already in this video or in previous videos, I must again express my condolences to the families of these men. What these Negroes are saying is, bottom line up front, do as I say and not as I do. Now, if they so-called cared about your black ass, why aren't they out in the streets with you? Why, if they're going to encourage you to riot and tear up your own fucking neighborhood, you would think that these motherfuckers would be out there with you, throwing stones and Molotov cocktails and all that fucking jazz. Speak little, carry a big stick, and you'll go far. Ladies and gentlemen, in my summation, and yes, I really didn't want to get too broken down and too absorbed with it because I'm still following the situation as it occurs. And I want to make sure before I give my video on it, I want to have a comprehensive understanding of what the hell is really going on down there. What I seem to notice is this Hotep Negro phenomenon. And I call it a phenomenon because this is something that doesn't naturally occur. These simpletons, these Neanderthals, these out-and-out jackasses clearly have an agenda. They believe by filling your head with absolute garbage that they can revolutionize America and that they can get what they feel is their 40 acres and a mule. Let me tell your black ass something. You can't revolutionize a country without shedding blood. And if you're not willing to shed it, why are you telling others to shed blood? It's something I don't quite understand. It's not something I really want to understand. The one thing I could say in my experiences, especially in the military, when you're a leader, you never ask those underneath you to do something that you yourself are not willing to do. And these so-called pro-blacks who came to care about you, they're not willing to put their lives or their freedom on the line. So imagine here, ladies and gentlemen, if they're not willing to risk their lives or their fucking freedom, what are they willing to risk to get you to believe their ideology? Nothing. They just ply you with honeyed words. And they say things that on the surface make sense, except for when you do your homework. You clearly see the forest for the trees. And you know what they're shoveling you is absolute bullshit. These pro-blacks cared so much about your black ass that 30 days later, there is no justice going on for Eric Gardner because the police officer or officers are not indicted. The EMTs are not indicted. To my knowledge, not one Kickstarter has been started for the family to help them pay for their legal fees, even though I'm aware that someone has paid for the funeral. And what happens is you guys rally behind your Al Sharpton, Jesse Jacksons, and all these other so-called these black leaders, these fucking coons. And they fill your head with garbage. See, my thing is, in order for us as a people to coalesce from the absolute drudgery that surrounds and infects our daily lives, we have to cast off this pro-black facade. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about being proud of one's culture, of one's heritage, one's people. But I am not willing to cast that aside. I am not willing to cast aside my logic, my ability to employ reasoning, to connect the fucking dots, to belong to a collective. A collective that doesn't really do anything. It's just yak, 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 yak. And this is why the rest of America doesn't take your black asses seriously. It just doesn't make any kind of sense whatsoever. And mind you, as a Catholic, As a Christian man, Catholic, as a family man, as a man who has done some fucked up things in recent times, I clearly am thoroughly disgusted by the absolute lack of reasoning. You know, the same thing you so quote-unquote pro-blacks love to shout me down for being a man of faith. These Negroes can sit around, talk about old glory ad nauseum, when your black asses have never gone to Africa, your black asses have never chosen an African name, your black asses don't even know where your ancestors come from off that continent. Much less do you carry out cultural norms, you adapt yourself to that lifestyle. Most of you Negroes claim to be pro-black and care about the black people. But when your African brothers come to this country, you spurn them just as much as the white man spurned your black ass. And what I come up with in all that is that y'all are pretty disingenuous. Seriously. So what I want to see happen here, what I want to see happen and what the purpose of me saying all this is, if I didn't say it before, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it now. And if I have said it before, I'm going to say it again. When it comes down to these people, these Negroes, I want y'all to use your fucking heads. It's okay to be proud of who you are. I'm not knocking you for it. What I'm suggesting is, do not allow a sense of belonging or desire to belong to a collective overpower your reasoning and logic, especially when the one is calling you to do it is not willing to let it hang all out just the way he wants you to let it hang all out. The short term, of course, obviously here is to stop the rioting, the looting, the vandalizing. Return to your homes. Do what's right and honor this man's memory. Whether he's a criminal or not, nobody deserves to get shot down like that. Now, if it's self-defense, it's self-defense. But I would rather wait until all the evidence is in before I make that determination. I would rather wait until all the facts are in before I go calling for the police commissioner's head and demand that the officers and EMTs be arrested. I'd rather wait to have all the facts. But in the event that I decide to not wait and I want to act, best believe if I tell you to go march, to rally, to do anything positive or negative, I should have my black ass out there too. Speak little, carry a big stick, and you'll go far. Far indeed. And when you come to this channel, looking for change, solutions, or even simple ideas, understand one motherfucking thing first and foremost. Change starts with one.